This is an exciting panel talking about the alignment of the core and the major. Welcome. We're glad you could be here to talk about these topics. And I have an illustrious group of department chairs from 4 different colleges. And based on how much the college sent me personally in funds, that's how we decided which college it was. I can't believe the business college didn't give us more money. Babu in the room, he had an option on this, but he didn't pay the right amount. So we have an illustrious panel that's going to talk about 3 questions in particular. And I'm going to ask each of the panelists to start off by answering any of these 3 questions they like. And the questions are in your book, and our panelists know them well. But question 1 is, how much overlap is there between the core, majors, honors college requirements, and how much should there be? So that's kind of topic 1, which I'm sure will stir some controversy. And then, should the core courses be equally or implicitly or explicitly designated for particular majors? And then the final question is, should core courses have non-core prerequisites? So all exciting January conference questions for you to think about and for our panelists to ponder. So I'm going to say closest to me is Diana Emanuel, representing the College of Health Professions. Okay. And then next to her is my colleague, O.C. Watson-Thompson, representing the College of Education. And then Karen Esco represents the College of Liberal Arts in her work as chair. And then finally, Michael Leary represents the Fisher College of Math and Science. And I'm going to ask Diana if she would lead off this presentation by talking about any of the 3 questions that she likes.
Okay, thanks, Dave. All right, so David had sent these questions when he first asked us to be panelists, and sort of I've been pondering for a while. And those of you who know me know that I don't mince words, and so I'll say exactly what I feel here, which is that from my perspective as a professor and as the chair, I don't think the core is working. It's not doing what the intention is from what I see in my students. Now, when he says you represent the college, well, I see my department and I hear from other parts of the college, but I have students coming into my hearing science class and they don't have the math skills that are appropriate for the class, and it only really requires college algebra. I have people coming into my upper level writing class and they have difficulty constructing a grammatically correct sentence. So I don't think, and for all the assessments that we're doing with the check boxes and the 2-day meetings, which I'll enjoy along with many of you in the room in the next couple of weeks, I don't think we're getting at with these that we need to. So my question that I'm answering is, what should be the overlap? And I don't think that it should be dictated by a particular policy. I think it should be whatever is appropriate for the unit. If it happens to be that we can, in fact, restructure the core somewhat so that it might be more skills-based. So we come out with maybe even Richard's big three skills. Maybe if someone is an English major, they will need more of the aspects of the core than something else. But I don't think it should necessarily be dictated that you can only use X number, because frankly, I actually really would like to make sure that all of my majors come out with excellent writing skills, excellent mathematical and analytical skills, diversity through every single course. So, there doesn't necessarily need to be a checkbox. Well, you can only do 2 of these. I think it really should be driven more by the discipline. But to go back to my earlier statement, I don't think we're doing the students a service by requiring 14 classes that I don't think are necessarily teaching the skills that we want them to have or need them to have as graduates of Towson. Okay, I'll pass it now. There you go, OC.
Okay. So I guess we're unique in the College of Education in that very few of our courses in the major are core, that therefore the majority of our courses are in the core. So that because we're generalists and we teach everything, we have to have some knowledge of almost everything, especially in elementary and early childhood. I mean, we teach mathematics, therefore we have a strong mathematics background, and we have a strong background in working with Fisher College. Our students take 12 credits of math. And so they have, hopefully, since we have so many transfer students, but hopefully the courses that they're taking at the community college that is transferred here to Towson are similarly as rigorous as the ones that have been developed for our students through Fisher College. We have a very strong liberal arts education and College of Education. We require 9 credits of social studies, and they include the courses that are general social studies courses, as well as global awareness courses. We have, in early childhood, they have to have 9 credits of English because, we're literacy based. I mean, it's true, we teach more reading, writing, and arithmetic in early childhood, so that we have very few courses in the major, and that's a good thing, and maybe that's a bad thing, that are core. We only have the advanced writing that is in our major and specific to our major. What the core did for us, which is a little bit different for Diana than for you, is it opened up some possibilities for us in the College of Education, and therefore we were able to develop 3 courses. We already had one already, which was the Teaching and Learning in a Diverse Society, but we were able to submit that course for approval. You were talking about diversity. We felt integrating it across the curriculum is a great concept, but it's a loosey-goosey concept, and it depends on the individuals teaching the courses. Therefore, as teacher educators, we felt we needed a course that addressed diversity in a very direct and systematic way, that we could control the content as well as the assessment. Yes, there's diversity within diversity, so we can't control what people do within their 17. We have about 20 sections each semester. We also were, in the College of Education, we developed our own Metropolitan Perspective course. This morning I heard that was one of the courses that was one of the areas or categories that was in need. Well, in the College of Ed, we developed our own core, and it's the Metropolitan Perspectives. And then to go further, we developed the ethics course, which is administered through secondary ed, and it is our ethics education and change course. However, the neat thing about the course, while it was developed for our teacher education majors, we left it open to the university. And the strongest group, we get students from across the campus. And it's great because, and that's the second one, should it be limited just to majors? We found that we really didn't want to limit those courses to majors. One, there's such a need to have the core 12, 13, and 14 that we're assisting the university. We have a hard time staffing because we really do want people with the background, disposition, and the knowledge in order to teach those 3 courses. But the real reason we really don't want to close it, and we've talked about it many times, David is aware of this, is because it brings diversity of ideas and students to those courses when we leave it open to the general population. As you know well, if it was only early childhood majors, they would all be middle-class white females. And we really don't want to have that perspective perpetuated. Sorry, middle-class white females in this room, but you don't represent the world. So we wanted to make sure we brought in different ideas, beliefs, and it has been wonderful to actually open it up campus-wide. However, it puts Department of Elementary Education, Department of Secondary Ed, and the Department of Early Childhood. It puts us in a major dilemma of staffing because the courses are so popular. It also makes the dilemma of the requirements that we think are critical to teacher educators. We are not going to take those out. Therefore, when we have students from other majors and we have fieldwork component, which is part of it, well, I'm a biology major, why should I do this? Well, you took the course. So, and I think they're all going to be parents one day, hopefully, or there'll be uncles or cousins or aunties or something where they're interacting with children and families and communities. So whether or not they're going to teach or not doesn't really matter, but the requirements that we have. So the core did that for us, and you know, if we change from the core, we would still want to require, one of the dilemmas with transfer students for us is that many times admissions, I just went to their session, will put any course there in those categories that will fit, like a children's literature course. I love children's literature. I taught it for years, but I don't think it's really diversity. Or American Lit. So sometimes we have to debate, you know, the metropolitan perspective. Social 101 is not so bad for that one, but there are some others that just don't fit, but they're trying so hard to meet the COMAR requirement of all courses that they transfer must fit somewhere. So I think we do a disservice sometimes to transfer students when we forget what the reason for the core was when we are waiving, and I know we have laws to follow in COMARs and all of that, but I think for over 50% of our students, if all of those requirements are waived or substituted with other courses, we're not graduating the same level of students with the same philosophies and understandings. So that's my biggest dilemma about, you know, can we as majors make requirements that supersede the university? And many times we do, but we don't want students taking 180 credits either. So yes, I believe that the core should be open to more than just your majors, and I don't feel that the core has limited us. However, sometimes it's hard to address some of the assessments that go with the core. And I'm an assessment person, but sometimes it's hard to do that.
So I think the core works, and we
do
do think alike, and but not completely. I think you know, it's new. We should be asking questions. The question that I'm going to comment on is the one about whether majors should designate core. Well, to me, that contradicts why we have a core and why we have a major. We want really broadly educated students. So we did I do teach in my department a metropolitan perspective course, and we were doing a subgroup of an experiment, and we asked the students in the course, how does this content enhance or detract from your major? And they were written responses, and it was very, very interesting. The social behavioral sciences, this is a family science major, so social behavioral sciences, yeah, they all saw the relationship. But accounting, and the health professions saw it, but accounting saw connections, finance saw connections. Students who had majors that I never would have dreamed, they would have said, yeah, I can use the course this way, but that really surprised me. And so I think sometimes we're not asking the right questions, and I think when we require too many things for a major, what happens when you have screen majors, or you have students who are going to graduate in 180 credits because they've been required to take so many different things. And we have students that don't know how to think, they don't know what they're interested in, they don't know what they want to learn, and we're here to educate. So I think it is working. I think things like the ethics, there are some really, really important perspective courses.
So I guess I'm here to say welcome to Core 3 Mathematics. I want to go back to one of the points Diana made at the beginning, where she said, you know, she was concerned that some of her students weren't as successful in mathematics as she wanted them to be. If this is the case in your major, please come talk to me. Right? My office is over in 7800. I'd love to talk more about it and how we can do better with that. So one of the questions was, should there be overlap between the different majors? What gets lost in the shuffle sometimes, I think, is when you are taking a core course that's not built in with your majors, and this is something I think Karen was pointing out, is you are going to meet, your fellow students are going to be different. So in the previous session, Michael Higgins was talking about how he wanted to try and get more of the core courses within his major, and I just thought you'll lose the perspective that you have when you have students from other majors in the classroom. You can learn as much or more, I think, from your fellow students as you are going to do from the instructors. You know, should core courses be explicitly designated for particular majors? It's Core 3 Mathematics. My math majors are going to take some. So I think it depends on exactly how you want to do that. If you want to say only a particular major can take a particular course, you lose some of the value in the breadth component of it. Right? The majors, I think, are designed to build your depth, but I like the core requirements as a way to build breadth in our students. The last question was, should core courses have sort of non-core prerequisites? In general, I'm opposed to this except in sort of rare circumstances. Again, in mathematics, the requirement for a course to be a mathematics core, it has to be at the level of college algebra or greater. As it turns out, not every student who enters Towson is capable of taking such a class. And so as a consequence, I need to have a prerequisite to get them to that level so that they're capable of taking a college algebra course or greater. But I think that should be the exception rather than the rule.
I think that's an excellent first cut at the three major questions. And I'm going to ask panelists to further follow up. Michael was the only one who talked about the last question about should core courses have non-core prerequisites. So I'm interested in hearing the panelists talk about that. And then, of course, OC also highlighted the kind of difficult issue that's been talked about in other sessions today, which is how core courses blend with transfer student issues and our students coming from the community colleges. So I'm going to ask Diana's got the microphone again, and I'll ask her to start off and determine which of those remaining questions she would like to address.
The last one in terms of core prerequisites, I would say from just getting students through in 4 years, we're not going to be in a great position if a lot of them have prerequisites. I mean, I could see having handfuls of classes having them, and I think it would be a great idea, because every once in a while, for example, the diversity category, sometimes the concepts are at a level where you have an introductory course and then you have one that really goes in depth. Some of the sociology classes, if you look at the trajectory, some of the upper level classes that have a prerequisite really would be wonderful in some of the categories, but if there are too many of them, and also students, because I've been stuck with transfer advising I've enjoyed transfer advising. Because we had a mid-year resignation, and boom, there you go. Here are the 3 dates you're going to be there. So I usually, given enough advance notice, I enjoy it more. But they're stuck there, and the frustrating part. I love meeting the students and talking to them about the major, but it's so frustrating because you're there for hours while they're searching for. They only are missing a core 10 and 14. They have everything else. I've already overloaded my courses, the two that I have, the ability to overload, and now they're looking for, desperately searching for 2 courses. So putting in prerequisites is going to make that even more difficult. Even if you have within all of the information session packets, if you want to take this course, you have to take that. They're already struggling to get the courses that they need. So I think it's awesome. I think it would get us, in some cases, much closer to what we're trying to get to in terms of teaching some of these basic skills and concepts, but at the same time it will prolong transfer advising, registration, program of study, if there are too many of them.
So here I go again with we don't have that problem. Because we really don't. I think in the College of Education, the only non-core prerequisite we have is in mathematics, and that is because Towson only requires 1 course in mathematics for the core, and that's core 3. However, for our majors in the College of Education, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, we require 12 credits of mathematics for our program. So they do have Math 204, which is Concepts of Math 1, which is a prerequisite to statistics. And the statistics is a prerequisite to geometry. So they have the core 3, which is the stat course before they take the geometry. But Math 204 is not a core. But that has not been a major concern because it's required 12 credits of mathematics, and not all 12 are going to be core. And let's just be real, not everything we require are going to be core related. So there might be some instances where you might have, we do have a course that most transfer students transfer in that are not core required, but it is a prerequisite for our upper level courses. And one is the advanced writing. They must have their English completed before the advanced writing. So the 9 credits of English, we've tied the 9 credits 6 of the credits are core for English, and we matched it, say for instance, with Core 5. One of the English courses fit Core 5, the Arts and Humanities. So we tried when we developed our program, because we are a lockstep kind of structured program, that if you deviate, you've sold your soul for another 2 years to Towson. So we've tried to make sure that where we have Maryland State Department of Education requirement, as well as information that we feel is critical to becoming an early childhood educator, we've tried to match where we can those requirements with the core, so that they are, supporting each other rather than competing against each other. So we don't have a lot of wasted credits leading up to getting into the major. So I can't be too negative right there. Okay.
So for most of the core courses, I would say we should not have non-core prerequisites, because I think that would defeat the purpose and would be impossible to staff. However, for the Core 9, which is the writing and the discipline, that's a very, very different course. And so that one, I think there is good justification, because most of the students, or many of the departments, and I know the English department is different, and perhaps other departments, most departments have the writing and the discipline that is their specific discipline. So we do need other courses, and many of them are up like 400 levels. So that's the one area that I do think we would have the non-core requirement. Other than that, I think the prerequisites could be general and should be within the core.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with what you guys are saying. I think in general you don't want to have all of your core requirements with prerequisites that are non-core, but I think there's always going to be the case where there are going to be particular courses that are going to have non-core prerequisites. Another example, since I'm representing the whole Fisher College, would be, say, your calculus-based physics classes, right? They're going to have a calculus course as a prerequisite. That makes a lot of sense. It's a calculus-based physics. If you don't put that in the core, then what do those poor students do? Take non-calculus physics and then calculus-based physics? That would be silly. So I think there are going to be sort of certain cases where it is appropriate to have non-core courses as a prerequisite, but it shouldn't be the case in general.
Thank you, panelists, for those comments. I appreciate those. In fact, it's clear to me from hearing this presentation, as well as other prior presentations, that we hold a lot of elements sacred and important to us that are in the core, and some of those are courses that not only you take in the core, but those themes continue to be important through the curriculum, no matter what your major is. And diversity is one of those topics. Writing is another topic. These analytical skills are a third topic that I think are important. But what I want to do is provide an opportunity, so I'm going to give audience the chance that if people have questions they'd like to ask regarding these core themes, this is your chance to ask a question of our panelists. I'm going to give the panelists a chance right now to give any final words regarding this alignment between core and majors that they see as far as other issues that go beyond these three questions, and just larger points that relate to either their department or their college. So, Diana, can I put you on the spot? Are there other questions or other topics related to core in your major that you feel like folks need to hear about before we handle question and answers?
Actually, I want to make one comment. I've been sort of a little negative and down on the core, but I do see that diversity is one of those things where that has been a real positive, and I almost want to say, could we have a requirement for 2 or more courses in that area? And because other things we can pull in house and teach, but I want to comment of specifically one of our cores is ASL 1, American Sign Language 1. And unfortunately, we've been limited in the number of sections because of the adjunct budgets, but we have a lot of freshmen coming into that course, and the student comments about that course are magical. For the vast majority of the students, they say, wow, this was the most different course I ever had. And comments like that are, I really loved learning a different perspective or a language in a different way or communicating without talking. But then you have that subset out of however many sections, so 6, 7 sections, 3 or 4 students will say, I didn't like the fact that my professor was deaf. It made it really difficult to communicate. So I'm like, I think you might have missed the point. So I think that sometimes it takes more than one opportunity to appreciate diversity rather than your difficulty with whatever the differences are. So I would almost put in a plug that to me is one of the most valuable things, is the experience with different students, with different cultures, with different ideas, rather than the skill-based ones. And I know the requirements from the state are, insurmountable, but I do have that positive thing to say, that I think that we need more courses like that expose students to different ideas rather than limiting it to one category. Anybody?
Well, that was one of the positives about the core. When I started, I said it did open opportunities for us to develop the Metropolitan Perspectives course, as well as the Education Ethics and Change, because we had the diversity course. I think we developed the diversity course many years ago when I was a diversity fellow, and there were a number of people in this room, Dr. Kermani and some others, that we felt Towson had no diversity courses when we started here. And we felt that that course was just an introduction to what are the many microcultures that make up this wonderful world we live in. And that's, of course, the Metropolitan Perspective is an introduction to the areas we live in, and then the diversity course extends it to the people within this metropolitan course. And then the ethics course actually does just what you're saying, our education ethics and changes. How do we value and appreciate the people, not tolerate? Teaching tolerance is great, but tolerance means I put up with you to a certain degree, but how do we value, respect, and truly feel in oneship with the many people we live with in this society? So the Education Ethics and Change course really get into ethical practices, as well as, because we're education majors, how do we interact with the communities we serve? How do we value the communities served? What do we know about the history of the many communities that make up these United States, especially the Baltimore, Washington metropolitan area? So it does that, not to the degree we would like, because yes, if we had our brothers, we probably would spend even more time on helping and assisting and mentoring and supporting the ideal of a universal society. So yes, we are getting there, and the core allowed us that where the Gen Eds did not. I feel we have a lot more freedom within the core that you can develop. We're looking at developing a freshman seminar. We just don't have the people that starts that process. So I think there are so many opportunities. We just don't have the resources, the human resources or the financial resources to do everything that we feel would benefit our students, to truly give them the type of liberal arts education, not just a degree, but a true education, because you can get a liberal arts education and leave with just a degree. We want them to truly be educated and be changed by the experience they had here at Towson University.
So what I have to say is not dissimilar from OC. Earlier I said that students need to explore what they're interested in and what they like outside of the major, but I don't think it's a bad thing for students to have to take courses that they don't like and that are hard for them, because I think sometimes you learn more from an area. A lot of our majors are social behavioral sciences, so they'll choose many social behavioral science courses. I think it's great that they take math, it's great that they take science, because sometimes they have to grow in a different way and exercise those parts of the brain that are not as comfortable for them.
The only thing I'd like to add to the great comments here, again, and I sort of brought it up before, is when you have students taking core courses outside their major, it's not just about the course, but it's about the students they're in the course with. And don't forget that piece of it. A lot of times we tend to focus on the title or the topic of the course, but I think it's at least as important that they get to meet folks with other majors and different ways of looking at the world.
I think the community piece is very important, but people have brought up some outstanding themes. that really span across not only our core courses, but are the kinds of themes that we think are important to happen in the curriculum well beyond the core courses within the major. So now I wanted to give the audience that opportunity, if people have questions for our panel.
I have a question about the limit on cores per major, and that speaks to the idea of being able to have a diverse population within your major when we're talking about this, particularly the ethics course. Could you speak to if a major has 2 core courses, being able to have another core, because we've got 14 cores, but having it open to other students, not limited to the major, but have a major course that other people be involved in it?
All 3 of those courses are open. I don't even need the mic. They are open to other majors. We toyed with limiting it to just College of Ed, but decided against it for the reason that we've all talked about, the need to have diversity of ideas. So other majors take our ethics course, the diversity course.
My question is the majors being limited to only having 2 core courses?
Yes.
Majors being, so you have 3.
But they don't have this, did you, this morning, Rodney said something about, they're not in the same departments.
Okay,
So
it's
that
different
they're
majors.
different, yeah, because the metropolitan perspective is managed and directed by elementary education. The diversity course, since we developed in the early childhood department, is managed by the Department of Early Childhood. And the ethics course is managed by the Department of Secondary Ed. But we worked collaboratively on making sure those courses were connected and seamless, and we don't require that the other majors take those 3. Where the majors in teacher education, they all will take, unless they transfer and get substitutions, they will have the metropolitan perspective, the diversity course, and the ethics course. However, if a biology major decides to take the metropolitan course in the College of Ed, they may not, or they may, because some of them continue with us throughout all 3. Because I think the ethics course now has like 30 sections, 20 to 30 sections, because it's so very popular. So all majors are taking metropolitan perspective because there's so few metropolitan perspective core. I think Bob is running up to 20 to 25, and we run 20 sections of diversity. And so if we only had the College of Ed students, we could knock it down to maybe 10. I mean, we are a large college, but we wouldn't have to have so many sections.
So it's the different majors within
The different,
college.
yes,
that
and
have
we
this.
all take ownership, but we all spread it, the work and the load throughout the College of Ed.
But I do think it's a common theme that we also see the value of having many majors in these courses.
Yes.
So that it's, so we get that diversity of viewpoint and overall experience. Yes.
So I know the panelists very well because you're all chairs, and I'm going to make an assumption that you are also experts in your particular major area of construction. So having stated that, earlier at the keynote address, Dr. Chris mentioned 4 different models or categories of general or liberal education. She mentioned about the core, the open, the distributed, and increasing the capacities of the mind and creativity and imagination. So what I'd like to ask of the 4 of you is when you constructed, if you did, your major, which model of these types of general education did you focus on specifically, and came to a decision about how to integrate your major with the core alignment of courses that we have?
Well, I don't know, since it's in front of me, I don't know if we were that deep. But I will tell you, because we are mandated by so many different societies in our major, that we do have some mandates that we can't deviate from. However, because we believe in our students being well-breast and deep-seated in a knowledge base, that's why we really depend on all of the colleges across this campus to assist us in developing our teachers, so that our students are enrolled in classes in every college except business on this campus. Our students take courses in Fisher, in the College of Liberal Arts quite a bit. They're in, I think, almost every fine arts. So that I think our majors in early childhood, elementary, and secondary. Secondary may be a little bit more limited than because they major in a particular content area. But generally speaking, I think we really want to develop analytical and thinkers, those students who can think critically and analytically and be able to process. And it goes back to what Karen said. I know we only have a few minutes, but that we want them to have a breadth and depth of knowledge we don't want them little Stepford people. So, and that ages me when I said Stepford people. But we want them to have a strong liberal arts foundation so that they are able to communicate and interact with all people. So I think we're more about the critical and analytical than just content knowledge.
Our programs, the core evolved when I wasn't the chairperson, so I sort of inherited rather than planned. But as Osi was saying, a lot of our determination in terms of which courses the students need is based on the same kind of thing on our external accrediting bodies. And so they say the student must have 3 credits in this, and 3 credits in that, and 3 credits in this. So they must have a statistics course. They must, have a social science course. They must have a what have you. And where they coordinate with the core in some cases is simply a coincidence. We said you can take Sociology 101 or Anthropology 207 or Education 203. One of those courses you have to take, and they fall under different cores. So it was not necessarily planned so much as it was, externally driven and coincidental. But I'll pass it over to someone who does not necessarily have an accredited program.
I don't know if I understand the question. Are you asking about when we developed core courses or major courses,
No,
Tom?
major courses.
Major courses that are part of the core?
Well, we already know, when we, in our respective majors, we already know what has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But do we make a conscious effort in creating the major courses to blend in with the general education along what model line? I mean, increasing the capacity of the mind model and imagination model, or just distributive courses in the various core categories out there?
I would say a little bit of all. It really depends, because the major, our major is a social behavioral science, but we draw on health science, we draw on statistics, we draw on a variety of we draw on education, we draw on a variety of disciplines, but sometimes the major dictates the coursework, whether you're accredited or not, frankly, because it has to be a coherent group of courses. So we hope that the core courses expands on the students' learning and helps create a more educated citizen. So it's a combination.
Yeah, in mathematics, I don't want to get into too much inside baseball. It depends on exactly which concentration, whether it's our education concentration, which has its own set of requirements, or the actuarial science concentration, which has its own professional requirements, or whether it's the pure or applied mathematics. But for the most part, we were looking at the requirements specific to the major, not looking at how it interacted with the core when those majors were being designed.
We have a chance for one remaining question. There is one bold and outstanding question that anyone might have regarding this sort of topic. Yes, please share.
A little bit of a question, a little bit of a comment. Everybody who doesn't know me, I'm Cheryl Cooper, and I'm the coordinator of the Dept Studies program. Diana mentioned that we have one core in our program, which is our introductory American Sign Language class. We also have another one that's an intro to Dept culture class. So we offer 2 diversity-based classes, one language, one culture, which we are thrilled to offer. We're thrilled that students from other majors would want to come in and learn about the language and culture that we think is great. My concern, as Diana alluded to, is that we don't have the faculty to offer what we need to offer. We want students from other majors to come in and take the classes, but we have a growing major ourselves, and the courses are full with students from our majors. We're thrilled that education requires our ASL 1 class, that's great, but by the time we let in all the students who need, there's not any room for students from the other majors to come in and have the opportunity to take either of these core classes, which we think is really lost to the university community in terms of courses. So it's more of a comment, I guess I'm a little bit directing this to Dr. Chandler, some extra money to
And that was the bad guy scene every time.
Thank you very much for your participation in this. Thank you very much.